God's commandments are not rules. I know that a lot of new Christians and even people who aren't Christians, and they look at religion and they think that God's commandments are rules and that we have to follow these rules in order to be saved, and that we have to follow these rules which keep us from having fun, and they think there's too many rules we have to follow and we can't do this and we have to do that. But this video is about how God's commandments are not rules, but they are protection. This isn't about religion, it's about understanding God's heart. People think Christianity is all about rules, and they think that freedom means to be able to do whatever you want. If you want to do this, go do that, But many people grow up thinking that God doesn't want you to have fun, and Christianity is a bunch of rules, and you have to do this, and you can't do that. And they think that God's trying to control us, but that's false. Social media, especially nowadays, normalizes sin. It normalizes the opposite of God's commandments. It normalizes evil, and it makes us think that it's normal and that it's okay. And it's just become so normal for people to glorify it and for people to think it's an achievement. But this is a misunderstanding, because when we think like this, we don't know God's character. God's commandments reveal who He is, and His laws reflect His nature. All of His commandments are tied to His character. For example, do not lie is because God is truth. Do not steal because God is provider. Do not commit adultery because God is faithful. No other gods because God is the only source of life. These are all examples of God's commandments being tied to His character. Commandments show us what a life aligned with God looks like. They're rooted in who He is. They reflect His character. They help us be like Him. They help us grow closer to Him. And His commandments are protection. They aren't punishment. They aren't rules. They aren't preventing us from having fun. Every sin harms you, not God. Lying destroys our relationships. Lust destroys our mind and our heart. Greed destroys our character. Anger destroys our peace. Idolatry destroys our purpose. People think that His commandments block fun, but really they're just blocking pain. They're blocking destruction from our life, and they're helping us live a good life, truly. And here's a good analogy. Imagine you're on a windy road with a cliff on the side. God's commandments are the guardrails preventing us from going off the cliff. If we wanted to, we could take the steering wheel and yank it and drive us off the cliff. But that would destroy our car, that would destroy our body, that would destroy our trust with the driver, that would destroy everything. And if you want to make that decision, you're just like driving yourself off a cliff. You're just causing destruction upon yourself. You're causing pain to yourself. So it's not a cage. His commandments, they're protection from destruction. And without God's standard and without God's commandments, good becomes meaningless. Everyone can have their own truth and their own version of good and their own form of what is right. But one person's good can be another person's evil. Our morals become an opinion, and feelings become the ultimate authority. So without His commandments, society decides what is good, which this is only going to lead to chaos. God gives us that line. He gives us the standard for what is good, what is right, so that we're not just all guessing and we're not all going off opinions and our feelings. And God doesn't just care about your behavior, He cares about your heart. Jesus took the commandments deeper. He took murder, starts with hatred, adultery starts with lust. God aims at the heart, not just at your actions. And Christianity is a transformation, not behavior modifications. And your obedience flows from love, not from fear. When we obey God, it's because we're doing it out of love, not because we're fearful, but because we love God enough to follow His commandments and to build a relationship and to stay strong in our faith. This is out of love, not out of fear. Our obedience brings freedom, not restriction. A common lie is that freedom is doing whatever you want to do. But in reality, when you do just what you want to do, it's going to lead to addiction, it's going to lead to emptiness, anxiety, consequences, and regret. But when we follow God's commandments, it frees you from lust, it frees you from anger, it frees you from jealousy, and it frees you from sin enslaving you. The world's freedom creates a bandage, but God's boundaries create true freedom. When we obey God, we're not being restricted, we're not being blocked from fun, but we're being brought to freedom, to true freedom. We're being freed from lust. Lust will no longer own you. We're being freed from anger. It won't control you. And we're being freed from jealousy so that it doesn't destroy you. We're also being freed from sin so that it doesn't enslave us forever. And the human heart needs guidance. It can't do it on its own because without God's commandments, and when the flesh tries to do it on its own, it leads to pride, it leads to selfishness, greed, lust, and anger. Naturally, we drift towards sin instead of righteousness. So God gives us these commandments as a direction, not as a denomination, but commandments are telling us to walk this way, the path to life, the path to freedom, to obedience, to faith, to love, to righteousness, all these things, instead of evil and destruction and pain and greed and lust and sin and all these terrible things which will leave us empty and will destroy our lives and everything in it. The commandments that God gives us points us to Jesus. And as we know, no one can follow every commandment perfectly. And this is why Jesus fulfilled the law on our behalf. This is what Jesus did for us. He did what we can't do. The law shows us that we need Jesus, not that we can save ourselves. We aren't saved by the works we do, the actions we have in this world. Anything we do is irrelevant. We are only saved by the grace of God, by what Jesus did. But we need to be able to accept that by having faith, by having obedience, and by having true repentance. We obey not to earn God's love, but because we already have it. Out of gratitude, not pressure. We don't obey His laws just to earn His love, because we already have it. Because He loves us, we obey Him and we have faith and we follow His commandments. So God's commandments, they aren't rules, restrictions, or shackles, but they are protection, guidance, love, reflection of His nature, and a path to true, real freedom. God's laws doesn't limit your life. They protect your life. And once you understand His heart, the word rules won't even make sense anymore. So remember that analogy about driving off a cliff. If you want to drive off the cliff, cause destruction upon your life, you sure can. But it's important to be grateful for the guardrails and to follow the road instead of running through the guardrails. Follow His commandments and don't think of them as rules. Think of them as freedom and a true path to life. Thank you for watching this video. Stay tuned for the next one.